My North Star is my Absoluta, and she always has been. I will never, ever let her down, because that's one of the biggest corners I could cut. And if I let her down, I've lost everything. A big part of the success of Absolute Collagen was bringing Darcy and Margot on, because I know what I'm not good at. That's why it works. So the success of us is based on, we are a team. We have strengths and weaknesses. I think because we're family, we're able to recognize those strengths and weaknesses, and more importantly, we respect the strengths and weaknesses.
Maxine Laceby, founder of Absolute Collagen. At the age of 50, after raising her 2 daughters and never having run a business before, Maxine started experimenting with bone broth at their kitchen table. That homemade idea became Absolute Collagen, a challenger brand now valued at over £50 million.
I found recently, I was going through some old documents and files, and I found the disclaimer I made them all sign when I was feeding them this collagen, this bone broth, and it literally was them signing their lives away. If they had allergic reaction, if they died, wasn't my fault. And they all signed it.
Welcome to Screw It, Just Do It, the show for those who decided to screw it and just did it. I'm Alex Chisnall, host of this podcast and co-founder of the Festival of Entrepreneurs at the NEC in Birmingham this October 8th and 9th. This is the podcast that brings you face-to-face with the entrepreneurs and business rebels who threw caution to the wind and built something extraordinary. Quick heads up, registration is now open for this year's Festival of Entrepreneurs. Join us at the NEC in Birmingham on October the 8th and 9th for 2 game-changing days with 200 plus speakers and thousands of ambitious founders. Get your free limited 2-day pass at festivalofentrepreneurs.co.uk or click my personal link in the show notes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Alex. And I think my middle name should be Screw It, Just Do It, really.
Well, having spoken to your daughter Darcy, I think I'd reiterate that exactly. Like, your level of risk, she was telling me, is very different to what her level of risk would be.
Oh, yes. And that's why it works.
Exactly. And we'll dive into that for sure. So when you were 50 and when you launched Absolute Collagen from your kitchen table, what was the exact screw it, just do it moment that made you decide to go all in rather than leave it as, you know, a lifestyle business or a hobby business that you were just selling to your friends?
I don't think that was a screw it, just do it moment. I do think it built up from just selling it to my friends, or giving it to my friends. I think in that instance, it was a process of me discovering the bone broth, discovering the collagen, just thinking, what did I want from this? As a supplement, I wanted the maximum, the best collagen, the minimum dose, and all of that. And then my friends asking for it, and then being in the kitchen. I suppose the screw it, just do it moment was, this is bloody hard work, boiling this up in the kitchen. I need to make this easy for myself, because I don't like being in the kitchen. I can cook, I just find it quite boring. I think it's my ADHD, can't cope with it. And that's when the screw it, just do it moment was like, we just need to make this really, really easy. What can we do? And that's when the sachets, the liquid, the sachets, the maximum collagen, minimum dose, all of that came to be, I guess.
Okay. And what was the reaction of your friends, your family, of going all in on it?
Absolute. Yeah, well, that's Maxine.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. They know you so well.
I'm all in with everything. And, you know, I always say I'm one of these people, I can't walk across an empty room without getting inspired by something. And my brain seems to home in on solutions, focuses and stuff like that. And I drove people wild, and I still do to this day. I can derail a meeting. I really have to, first of all, I had to respect and come to terms with the power I had as a founder at a meeting, in my own meetings in the business. And if I mention something to the team, I can derail them. And that's my head. And I think that's what entrepreneurs are really good at. But it's also knowing the business is staying in its lane right now because it's got so much going on. And so I think the reaction to my friends was, yeah, well, that's Maxine. I mean, really? In fact, I found recently, I was going through some old documents and files, and I found the disclaimer I made them all sign when I was feeding them this collagen, this bone broth. And it literally was them signing their lives away. If they had allergic reaction, if they died, wasn't my fault. And they all signed it. I was like, take it.
I love that. That's a fantastic quote. And look, I know not everybody, but a lot of people in their 50s, friends of mine, who the conversations around winding down, of retiring. It's not my mindset, and it clearly isn't yours. What is it that made you speed up at that stage of life and start something new, Maxine?
I don't think I've ever slowed down. It wasn't about speeding up. I've always just had this mind that, if I go back, this is bizarre. If I go back to when I was 23, I was living in a flat in Bath many, many years ago. We had a communal entrance. I had a phone, so if somebody phoned me, I'd know they'd phoned because they'd leave a message on the phone. If somebody pressed the button on the communal intercom, I didn't know they'd been. So I went to a solicitor at 23 with an idea for an intercom answer machine, the Ring doorbell.
There you go. Yeah.
And it was just so overwhelming. The IP, the intellectual property, the prototype, all of that overwhelmed me at the time. So I always think I've kind of have that mindset. So yeah, I kind of just do, and I think I always will. I drive myself mad. I really do. I absolutely drive myself insane. I see something, and I just see a way of making it not necessarily better, because that's arrogant, but easier or different, and I have to stop myself. So I think I'll always have that mindset, and hopefully I'll just exhaust myself and stop one day.
Doesn't sound like.
No.
If you're enjoying this conversation and thinking, I need to be around more people like this, then I've got the perfect solution for you. The Festival of Entrepreneurs is where 5,000 to 10,000 ambitious entrepreneurs come together to learn from the people who've actually done it. It's on October the 8th and 9th at the NEC in Birmingham, and I'm giving my listeners free 2-day passes. Real entrepreneurs, real stories, real strategies. Exactly like what you're hearing right now, but live and in person. Go to festivalofentrepreneurs.co.uk and get your free 2-day pass before they're gone.
And why do you think you didn't do something before the age of 50 when it comes to entrepreneurship? Was there anything, and I don't mean this in a negative way, parent myself, but was there anything holding you back outside of the children? Was there anything that you procrastinated? You said, at the age of 23, that was too much to, take on for that particular business. But
yeah, I'd met my first husband, and he had children. I was working sales and marketing by that stage in small boutique hotels in Bath, and I'd set up a business called A Unique Selection, funnily enough. And I was thinking about this the other day, and I'd totally forgotten about it. And it was literally, so Recaro Seats might come to me and say, right, we've got a dinner for 2 executives or a conference for 100. Where would you place them? And I remember the .com booming, and I remember lastminute.com. Wow. And I just remember being and I met her recently, actually, and I remember being in my lounge and just looking in awe of this woman that had created this. And I just thought, wow. And I always think it was there in me, but the timing wasn't right. And I'd met Rob, he had children, so I gave up work to look after his children purely by, I was very privileged to have done that. Was it right at 25? For me, it was. Then we had children. And, Rob had a very successful business, and it was never my time, and I was okay with that. I was very fortunate I could concentrate completely on the children. That's what I wanted. And it wasn't until later in life. And then when Rob and I split up, I bought a rat-infested pit house. And the girls and I, they were 11 and 13, they'd come home from school, they'd put their hard hats on, and we'd do the house together, because we were a team, and we've always been like that. And I don't think there was ever the opportunity to do something. However, I don't know if Darcy told you this, but when Margaret was about 12 and Darcy was about 13, 14, I had a business idea then, and it was plastic bands. You remember the kids were all wearing those slogan bands? Anyway, this was Wannabe, and I'd had this idea that they could buy this band and they could collect poppers to put in the bands. And, I said to the girls, right, I found a manufacturer, October half term, we're going. And bearing in mind, I'd just torn them away from their family home. We were living in a rat-infested pit, crazy mother. And they went, yeah, cool, where? And I went, China. And off we went. And we just went. And I think I thought about that business so long that I left it too late. I never look at that as a disappointment. I look at that, even when I go back to when I was 23 with the intercom, I learned something about intellectual property then. I learned something about prototypes. And when I look into China, I learned that I thought about it so much that I missed the boat. So I think so the next thing, not that I knew there was going to be a next thing, so I acted faster. And I think most entrepreneurs isn't their first gig. You know, whether they've been successful, whether they've launched it, whatever, their minds are working in that way. But I think everything you do leads up to a point, and you learn something along the way. And I think the timing with Absolute Collagen was just perfect, and everything fitted in.
Yeah, and I think so much, and you'll know this from the networks you're in and the people you've spoken to, business owners as well, is that so much of it is timing. And if the timing isn't right, or you don't, you know, as you said, you're so focused on something else like bringing up the children, your eyes and ears aren't necessarily aware to the opportunities that exist at the time. You're not around like you are now, say, around people who are constantly having ideas as well and finding solutions to problems, etc. as well.
You know, and I look at people with children, young people, younger, or not even always younger, and I just think, how do they do it? How do they do this? Because I couldn't do it. And I suppose, no, I don't suppose, part of the success, a big part of the success is Absolute Collagen was bringing Darcy and Margot on, because I know what I'm not good at. And, you know, we were saying earlier, and I can't remember if we were recording or not, you know, I am the batshit crazy one, foot to the pedal, 100 miles an hour, I'm off. Darcy is the one coming up the rear of the dustpan and brush. And when I go back to that, going to China, I was at the bar having a drink that night. Darcy, at 13, was Googling top questions to ask a new manufacturer.
She wasn't. Really, she didn't tell me that. Wow.
100% on my life. And I didn't even discuss that with her. we never even had that conversation. That's why it works. So the success of us is based on, we are a team. We have strengths and weaknesses. And I think because we're family, we're able to recognize those strengths and weaknesses. And more importantly, we respect the strengths and weaknesses. When one of us has a weakness, we don't down it. We just rise above and strengthen it with what we're good at. And I think that is absolutely fundamental.
That conversation just proves something. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So here's my challenge. Upgrade your network. The Festival of Entrepreneurs is happening October the 8th and 9th, and I'm giving my listeners free 2-day passes to get in the room with 5,000 to 10,000 entrepreneurs who are actually building something. This is where the risk takers, the game changers, and the people who've decided to screw it and just do it come for inspiration, education, and connection. Don't just listen to their success stories, go meet the people living them. Grab your free pass now, because the biggest risk isn't taking a chance, it's missing the opportunity entirely. If this conversation resonated with you, don't just sit there, act on it. Make sure you follow or subscribe for more game-changing conversations, and remember, the only thing standing between you and your business breakthrough is the decision to screw it and just do it.